Welcome back to Inside Four Walls. I'm Rose James Madison, and the final investigation has concluded into the leaker from the Supreme Court. There was 2 leaks that came out regarding the Supreme Court's decisions in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the case that would have led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And they have found fucking zilch. So let's get right into it. U.S. Supreme Court report fails to identify abortion ruling leak culprit. Put my glasses on. The U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday released a report on the May 2022 leak of a draft version of its blockbuster ruling overturning the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that had legalized abortion nationwide, but failed to identify who was behind the disclosure that rocked the nation's top judicial body. Now we're going to scroll down here. Go to the center, click, mixed factuality, 3 hours ago, click over here, high factuality, Daily Hampshire Gazette, 8 hours ago, click over here to the right, you have the Union Leader, 7 hours ago, and then you have the KSL right-leaning. I don't really like Union Leader, so I went with, they are about the same age. Now, when I had first clicked this was only 7 hours old as well. So, this is still technically a newer article than this one is. That being said, we're going to go use KSL as our outlet. High factuality, right lean, and that's how I came to use this article for this kind of brief episode. Supreme Court says it hasn't found abortion opinion leaker by Mark Sherman and Jessica Gresco, Associated Press. January 19th, 2023 at 4:35 p.m. The Supreme Court said Thursday that it had not determined who leaked the draft of the Supreme Court's opinion overturning abortion rights, but that the investigation continues. Patrick Semensky, Associated Press. Washington, the Supreme Court said Thursday that it had not determined who leaked a draft of the Supreme Court opinion overturning abortion rights. No abortion rights were overturned. I hate to break it to you. Lean's right. No abortion rights were actually overturned. What happened is the federal government said, we are removing our laws regarding abortion, and turned it over to the states, so states will now be able to vote on different laws. Meaning, if your state goes suddenly pro-life hardcore and bans abortion outright, you can rally and vote to have your state in the next election, or over the next election, or 2 elections, or whatever, go back the other way to have abortion become a pro-choice issue in your state. That's all it is. It's a 10th Amendment situation. It just reverts it all back to state's power. No rights were stripped or taken away. But, soapbox harder, I guess. But, that the investigation continues. Alright, my bad. I was under the belief that it was the final investigation concluding. That was fake news. Fake fucking news on my part. Complete ownership of that one. 8 months after Politico published its explosive leak detailing the draft of wow. I was at the convoy that long ago? This is like one of the first things I covered when I got back home. Interesting. Does not feel that long ago. Anyway, detailing the draft of Justice Samuel Alito's opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade, the court said its investigative team, quote, has to date I feel there should be a comma in there, or I'm just an illiterate fuck, one of the two. Sorry, quote, as to date. That's the issue. There's an H there. It should be as to. But alright. As to date. Been unable to identify a person responsible by a preponderance of the evidence. You spell preponderance right, but you can't get has as to as. Enough harping. Never before had an entire opinion made its way to the public before the court was ready to announce it. Chief Justice John Roberts ordered an investigation the next day into what he termed an, quote, egregious breach of trust. Yeah, for the first time ever in Supreme Court history, there was a leak. And then within the same week, there was a secondary leak. Wild. Investigators, quote, conducted 126 formal interviews of 97 employees, all of whom denied disclosing the opinion. In sworn statements, the court said in a 23-page document posted on its website, some employees had to amend their written statements after they, quote, admitted to telling their spouses about the draft opinion or vote count. Snitch ass bitches. But moving on, the report says, the court said it could not rule out the opinion. The opinion was inadvertently disclosed, quote, for example, by being left in a public space either inside or outside the building. Anybody remember? It was probably, I think, the iPhone 4 or 5, where someone lied and said that someone from Apple left a demo prototype of the phone out at the bar. Don't worry about the whole story to itself. But moving on. Investigators looked closely at connections between court employees and reports, and they found nothing of rampant speculation on social media about the identity of the leaker. The investigation concluded that it, quote, is unlikely that the court's information technology IT system were improperly accessed by a person outside of the court. Alright, so it's unlikely that they were hacked. Following an examination of the court's computers, networks, printers, and available call and text logs, the, quote, risk both deliberate and accidental disclosures of court-sensitive information grew with the coronavirus pandemic and shift to work from home. Okay. The report said... Sorry, I got a text here. Pardon me. The report said more people working from home, quote, as well as gaps in court security policies created an environment where it was too easy to remove sensitive information from the building and the court's IT networks. Well, has anyone asked Joe Biden? He seems to have a knack for moving documents he shouldn't be moving around, as it turns out. The report said, I added the joke about Joe Biden. There is an audio version. This goes up with no visuals. In case you're wondering why I had to clarify that, I didn't want anybody thinking that that was in the article. Investigators are continuing to, quote, review the process, some electronic data that has been collected, and a few other inquiries remain pending, the report said. Roberts also asked former Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, himself a one-time federal judge, to assess the investigation. Chertoff, in a statement issued through the court, described it as thorough. Politico published the draft decision on May 2nd. Less than 24 hours later, Roberts confirmed the draft's authenticity and said he had directed the court's marshal, former Army Colonel Gail Curley, to lead the investigation. Since then, there has been silence from the court until Thursday. You can't undo it. The court had declined to say anything about the status of the investigation or whether an outside law firm or the FBI had been called in or whether it had taken steps to try and prevent a repeat. You would want to bring in outside source. You don't want to trust the government to do an investigation into the government. It's a little, set up to fail there. Just ask the 9/11 Commission report. Speaking in Colorado in September, Justice Neil Gorsuch said he hoped a report was coming soon, but he did not say whether it would be made public. Gorsuch joined Roberts in condemning the breach of trust the leak endangered. Justice Clarence Thomas spoke in even speaker term about the leak's effect on the justices. Yeah, like the man stalking around Brett Kavanaugh's house with a backpack that had zip ties, gag balls, a crowbar, razors, and a couple other fun little party gifts. Quote, when you lose trust, especially in the institution that I'm in, it changes the institution fundamentally. You begin to look over your shoulder. It's like kind of an identity that you can't explain it. But you can't undo it, he said while speaking at the conference in Dallas less than 2 weeks after the leak became public. The leak itself sparked protest around the clock. Security at Justice Holmes Alito said it made the conservative justice who thought to be in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade, quote, targets of assassination. Yeah, big time. That, quote, gave people a rational reason to think they could prevent that from happening by killing one of us. In early June, a man carrying a gun and a knife and zip ties, this is who I was talking about, was arrested near Justice Brett Kavanaugh's house in Maryland, Booth Champ 1988, threatening to kill the justice, not Booth Champion 98. The man told police that he was upset by the leaked draft. Responding to protests outside the court, officials ringed the building with hard-to-climb fencing and same barrier that was the place for months following January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, the riot. By the way, Capitol Riot is such a good name of a record label or a band or something, like Capitol Hill Riot or Capitol Riot. Because there is Capitol Records. Anyway, moving on. When the final decision was released on June 24th, it was remarkably similar to the draft that was leaked. Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Justice Amy Coney Barrett voted to overturn Roe. Speculation has swirled since the draft's release about who might be the source. Only the justices, a small number of staff, and the justices' law clerks, young lawyers who spend a year at the court helping the justices with their work, would have access to the document. Conservatives pointed the finger at the liberal side of the court, speculating that the leaker was somewhat upset about the outcome. Well, I mean, that's the most likely suggestion. I mean, Hanlon's Law or whatever the fuck. Or, so that's the razor one, actually. Auckland's razor. Liberals suggested that it could be someone on the conservative side of the court who wanted to ensure a wavering justice didn't switch sides. That wouldn't be a good way to go about that. Yeah, I want to make sure they don't switch sides, so I want to make sure I leak this, which could get them threatened to be killed, which would probably lead normal, weaker people to change their vote. That counter just does not seem very strong. Yeah, I wanted them to be afraid, because people being afraid definitely don't change their mind about what they're doing if they're afraid to do it. Sorry. It would have taken just one conservative justice to side with Roberts to alter the decision. Instead of overturning Roe entirely, Roberts favored weakening abortion rights. Rights my ass. Related stories. Roberts confirmed authenticity of leaker opinion. And I guess that's it. Alright. And that's just the update. There's not much to conclude with. That being said, this will wrap up this episode of Inside Four Walls. To bears James Madison. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on what you think about the video. Any counter arguments, leave them in the description below. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.